Hello and welcome to Talking Development. I'm recording this episode from Bogota, Colombia, where I'm delighted to be joined by Rodrigo Botero, Director of the Foundation for Conservation and Sustainable Development. Rodrigo is an expert on the Colombian Amazon, to which he has dedicated 30 years of his life. The Amazon region makes up 44% of Colombia's land area and 6% of the overall Amazon basin. It is home to 1.5 million people. I'm also so happy to be joined by Felipe Jaramillo, the Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean region in the World Bank. And Felipe is no stranger to all of our staff and management teams in the World Bank. Now, turning back to Colombia, between 2001 and 2021, Colombia lost nearly 3.2 million hectares of forests. That's 4% of its total area. But in recent years, Colombia has prioritized the protection of the Amazon region and launched a bold strategy to achieve zero deforestation by 2030. I am so happy to be joined by Rodrigo and Felipe to discuss Colombia's most biodiverse region. Rodrigo, Felipe, thank you so much for joining me today on Talking Development.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Great to have both of you here. Rodrigo, I'm going to start with you. I gave a little bit of your background there and the dedication of your professional and much of your private life that you have done to the Amazon. Can you share with us a bit, why did you decide to create an NGO to focus on this topic?
First, because I have spent several years working with the Colombian government, inside the Colombian government. And I think that we need in the government key allies, key partners to develop long-term policies. And it's crucial to have in the civil society these key partners who could be the link between the territories and the national policies and the key decision makers. The other one is that we need to have a different approach to understand what's happening in the territories. And when I say what's happening in territories, is because we have not only an overview about only a sector, in this case, environmental sector. In my experience, I have spent several years in the middle of the conflict armament in Colombia, and it's extremely close with the environmental issues. So we decided to create this NGO to first understand how can we support in the long term the Colombian policies, and not only the Colombian policies, because in other scales, we have to work with other countries in our boundaries. Second one, because we have a intersectoral work with different types of ministers and agencies who work in some regions. And the third point is because maybe we have a long-term vision to transform these territories.
Thank you so much. The three of us and a few other colleagues came back just very recently from a flyover of the Amazon. And in fact, we just arrived and we're here in this arrival hall. And it was for me very eye-opening to do this flyover. And I had been told that it would be eye-opening because you get to see firsthand, first just the awesomeness of the Amazon. It's quite impressive. But you also actually get to see the impact of deforestation, illegal encroachment, and the toll, if you will, that the activities in the forest are taking on the Amazon. And it seems like there's so many different dimensions of these causes of deforestation. You started talking a little bit about it, including conflict. Can you unpack for us what are the key drivers of deforestation of the Amazon as it concerns Colombia?
Well, again, I think to understand drivers of deforestation, we need to understand it different scales of understanding and of drivers. First of all, I think Colombia and maybe 2 or 3 countries like Bolivia and Brazil also, at the same time, we are the last frontier of the land grabbing process in the world, or in this area of the world. Second one is that there is a big illegal economy opening these areas, and not only opening these areas, but also doing a money laundering operation, which uses the lands, the public lands in this way, and using also in the other arm the corruption and cooptation of areas in the subnational scale. And finally, the deforestation is also related with this failed process of the peace agreement in 2016 with FARC, and specifically because the rural land reform has not been improved in a good form. So maybe these different scales of drivers are now pushing in Colombia this process of deforestation. But again, the deforestation is only one phase of the land grabbing process.
Thank you. Felipe, I'm going to quickly turn to you. We in the World Bank, as part of our Evolution Roadmap, have introduced or are introducing these 6 global challenge programs. One of them actually deals directly with this, which is the Forest Development, Climate and Biodiversity Global Challenge Program. And what you saw today when you heard from beneficiaries today and stakeholders, as well as the perspectives of Rodrigo, how does it make you think about this Global Challenge Program for us at the bank as we try to step up to address some of the most pressing global challenges?
Listen, it brings home the importance of this Global Challenge Program on forestry and biodiversity. First, because I think we have changed our mission statement. We have added not only poverty, but now it's a livable planet. And I don't see how we can have a livable planet if we don't preserve important parts of the forests. The forests, as we saw today, they're critical for the climate. The global forest deforestation emits 12% of global emissions. So we need to stop that to not worsen climate change. And it's absolutely critical for water, for the whole water ecosystem around the world, and the weather and the temperature. Secondly, biodiversity. You saw it's absolutely amazing the kind of biodiversity that exists in this area. And third, and most important, and sometimes we forget, it's people. There are over 3 billion people around the world who live within a mile of a forest. And we really need to take care of these forests so that those people can enjoy the forest, those who live off of the forest can improve their welfare.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Felipe. I'm going to come back to you specifically to Latin America and the work that you're leading there. But Rodrigo, let me come back to you. You talked about the importance of different actors in my first question to you, and how one of the reasons you decided to shape and create the NGO was exactly that different actors need to come together on this agenda. You also have a lot of experience working with international institutions, development institutions, bilateral donors. What do you think the role? What are some of the contributions you look for and the role you're looking for when it comes to an international development institution? Any of them, but of course I'm very keen I'll be listening very keenly to see what does it mean for us at the World Bank.
I think the international cooperation could work specifically in create complex solutions. Complex solutions getting different type of factors from different types of areas in the governments, right? Not only a sectoral approach, but also different type of sectors. Second one, maybe to having more working together and more close with different type of donors, and not only with the governments, but maybe also with the international philanthropy donors. Maybe creating a change in terms of how can the international cooperation and the governments changes regions, not doing projects. Maybe changing the approach for these complex areas, which needs a different scale approach, scale in terms of the long-term approach, and trying to work together with different areas and different cooperation systems there. And finally, many times the international cooperation, when arrives to a landscape, the landscape have been lost. So we need to change the rules. We need to change and adapt the international cooperation to answer quick to these situations and to adapt and adopt what's happening in the territories and in the land. So maybe in the case of the World Bank, you have the capacity to put this discussion over the table. Because in many times, many territories is going to be lost if we don't work with a different approach, with different scales, and working quickly.
Thank you. You touch on many important aspects there. One is one of convening, making sure that there's a platform of actors that need to come together and have continuous engagement. And I think we also saw that today when we engaged with the stakeholder. The other one is, this is not a short-term process. This is really more of a long-term process, and it needs to fit into both the national priorities, but it can't really be a transactional approach. And thirdly, I like how you start introducing other actors that we may not have automatically thought about, like philanthropy, which is exactly something we're trying to do now, to see how do we expand our partnership spectrum to go with beyond the traditional partners.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Felipe, coming back to you, the Amazon is part of an MOU that we have entered into with the Inter-American Development Bank. In fact, the first of such partnership memorandum of understandings that we're now pursuing globally, region by region. And I know that you were, of course, one of the first, you were in fact the first region to undertake one and enter into one of these MOUs. Based on what you saw today, what does it make you think about in operationalizing that part of the MOU? And what do you think you'll do differently, maybe on Monday morning as you work with the countries in the region, your team, the Inter-American Development Team, to move forward and implement this part of the MOU?
It was fascinating to see the Amazon and to talk to the people who live there. And as Rodrigo just mentioned, to see upfront how complex this whole deforestation problem is. I think we've signed this MOU because it is a difficult problem, and we're joining forces with the IDB so that we can all come together and think how we can help solve this problem. There's many different elements and actors involved. We met with people who live there, communities, community leaders who really want to do the right thing. They really want to move away from deforestation to have sustainable modes of income. We also realized, we met with the local authorities that are an important part of the equation. There are donors there, but we also learned there's a lot of illicit activities. There's a lot of coca growing in that area. And there are people, they're interested in land grabbing, which is a reality in that area. And so I learned that I think we need to take into account this complexity because it is, a very difficult problem that doesn't have an easy solution. Let me end by saying that I think a big part of it is to help generate ways for people to live sustainably there. So with IFC and with the IDB, we're looking for businesses, eco-businesses, bioeconomy businesses. Brazil and Colombia has now started exploiting the acai berry that has now a global market. That's a tropical crop that grows there naturally, and people can do that. We need to do a lot more of that so that people can earn incomes without tearing down the forests.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you first of all for all the work you do. Really, really appreciate it. And Felipe, thank you for inviting me to the region, for allowing me to be part of this and to have really a glimpse I hadn't had into both the complexity, but also, as you say, the opportunities that forests actually present. So thanks to both of you. What an eye-opening conversation. So let me share with you what my take is. First of all, preserving the Amazon is vital for the world's environment and people, including the millions who call it home. This task is enormous, and we need everyone to play their part. Colombia has some very valuable experiences to share. The Amazon is also a priority for the World Bank. We are committed to eradicating poverty on a livable planet, and simply put, there is no livable planet without the Amazon. Our current work with direct impact on Amazon countries surpasses $4 billion and focuses on forest landscape management, land use planning, smart agriculture, enabling business environment, and basic infrastructure. We are working with the Inter-American Development Bank as well as other partners, including donors, civil society, and the private sector, and of course with the Amazon countries, to speed up and increase the scale of support to this critical part of the world. Protecting the Amazon also means offering sustainable economic opportunities to the populations that depend on the forest for their subsistence. The end goal is to improve the lives of people and the health of the planet. This is all for today, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on Talking Development.